So, good morning everyone. Oh, I forgot something. 1 second. So, good morning everyone. Oh, I forgot something. 1 second. So, perfect. And transition. So, hello, good morning everyone. How did your day start? Did you had a great start into or from the weekend into this Monday morning? I really hope so. So welcome to our little live stream that you know now already and you're familiar with. We are talking today again about our little project with Golang, Flutter, Gonic in the background, where we create a full server application. And at the moment planned is that we are creating a Warcraft free game tracker app. That means we want to have a tournament set up or more or less a league, and in this league are games done, and currently we have created a background server that already starts up. We have the possibility to get all the data, we have possibility to add data, and in the long run our idea is to have a web scraper that gets the data from the internet or from any place we want. And then we add that into our server's database so that we can receive that all the time. And for that, we want to have a Flutter application in the front so that we have a possibility to look at them and publish it in Warcraft free game tracker app that keeps track of all the data that we have there. So at the moment we are using Flutter for the front end and Golang for the back end stuff. And today I would like to do something, and that idea came me on the weekend because last week I felt a little bit unsure if our folder structure and project structure is actually correct for our project, because I am not so much experienced in Golang so far. So at the moment I'm still trying to learn and validate. And today I want to show you how you can validate your ideas that you have. Like if you create a server, how can you make sure that this server idea is at least in general a good idea in the specific language you do? So I hope that makes some kind of sense. So Shasvenda Zinch, you wrote already, please make a series on Golang. It could be that there will be some tutorials on YouTube more sooner or later, but at the moment I have no such plans, because at the moment I'm still struggling because the name of the YouTube channel is Flutter Explained. And then switching completely to Go or make like part of it, that could maybe be a problem for some people, and I have to make that a little bit careful. So I have to understand first where we are here in that situation. Maybe I'm even rebranding Flutter Explained, so who knows. But in between, let's start with our little episode today, right? So let's jump right into it. So make the transition here, and as I said, we have at the moment this nice little server architecture, I would say, where we have the API, which is our layer that directly talks more or less with all the clients that could be there. So there could be a Flutter client, a web client, I don't know, a terminal client. At the moment, we just make curl requests to it. So all that is focused on the API layer. That means here we register our endpoints, like for example, /groups on the get method or /group on the get method. So to get one single group, etc. So all of these are, for our server initial starting points for requests that we want to handle. Then we have our main.go where the servers start up. I think here we have some helper methods for logging and setup, because logging we use the ZEP logger at the moment. And for the setup there are the registration of the different endpoints. We have the environment in which we are in. We have the startup of the server with the IP and things like that. So we have that a little bit separated in this server folder. Then we have docs, which is just our database structure at the moment, but here could be anything residing. Maybe in the future we also auto-generate some documentation, like an open API standard we could use, like Swagger or something like that. And then we have the integration. while integration is at the moment just a test folder, so for integration tests where we run the whole test for getting, and because we spin up the server completely and the database needs to be running, I called it integration. So the problem is that if I have that lying inside of the API folder, I get some import problems because I cannot import in a circular way in Go. So with that I get there some issues, and to avoid that I have this folder at the moment. Then we have migrations. This is where we store SQL patterns, how we can go from one version to another one inside of SQL without breaking changes. That means when I have ever deployed our database somewhere, with this init up, we have the possibility to spin up everything. So all databases tables getting created. And for each version that we create in the future, there will be an alter for the tables so that we don't destroy anything. And then we have default things and so on. So these are the migrations for it. Then we have the repository. This is the layer, like we have the API layer that talks with all the clients. And then we have the repo layer, and this one is for speaking with all the databases and with all the groundwork that we have. So if we have, for example, like Google Analytics, or if we have different servers where we want to get information from, the repo folder would be doing this job. Then server explained, templates are just HTML templates, and tools, currently we have only the HTTP files to make our requests running. At the moment they will fail because I don't have Docker set up. Oh, I hear myself twice, is that true? Let me quickly check, not that. Oh yeah, sorry for that. So let's get rid of that. Cool. Also here, yeah, mute, fantastic. So, did you had some questions so far? No, fantastic. Good. But this folder structure is my idea, you know, that's how I learned software engineering now with Java, JHipster in old times, and also with our other clients where I always created servers like that. This was the structure, read-write pattern and things like that in mind. We had always this structure, API, repo, and in between there is also a domain layer, which we don't have even now at the moment. So I skipped that for now because I wanted to have that server at the moment lightweight. But let's see, how can I validate now if this idea of a folder structure is correct or makes any sense for everyone? So the easiest part is we can Google it, of course. So Golang, Gonic, template, folder structure. And if we search something like that, we find also GitHub repositories. And as you see, I have been there already. So that was something that I did on the weekend. But I just want to compare it now with what I have. So first of all, who's the source? You know, this is now a quite old project. So, but still there are some updates happening. But in general, it's quite oldish. We can see it is used by 9 people. That's not too many, but at least some people. And we have a lot of contributors. And it seems that, I hope at least, that this Vejusa, I think, has quite some understanding of Go. And we can check that maybe. And we can see it has over 650 stars, which is not too bad, I guess, for something like that. And that helps us now already, because that's the first trail on the road that we have. And here we can see how did he set up the server now. So for example, the main.go, what has he here? So he parses the environment inside of the main file, that's fine. Makes some usages, parses the whole thing, and initializes the configs, the DB, and the server on that store. And that's interesting. So as you can see, we have now these 3 dependencies to the config, DB, and server, and all of them has like an init function. And now we can take a look. I always thought that init is not so good in Go because we cannot test it, but let's see. So we have the DB, for example, dbgo, and here we have the init folder. And that's now interesting. If we compare this, I make that a little bit bigger that you can read easier. But if we compare this now with our implementation of the database, we have that in Go repo connector. And now let's have a look. So we have an OpenDB, SQLDB. That is more or less this part here, just different named, and he uses a DynamoDB. Then we have the init function, and we have the config, where we get the config from the getConfig part, okay. Then we initialize the database, and we set that into that global function that we have, and then we have this getDB that we can access from everywhere. Yeah, so that makes sense to use init actually, because we don't want to expose init too much to the outside world, and we can only use it once, I think. And then we have the get DB part where we have the possibility to receive the DB. And if we check our solution, we can see we have it nearly the same way. We have created a get open connection, which checks if this OpenDB here up there is not null. And if it is null, we create a new connection. So we only do once to get this connection here up and running. And that's pretty, yeah, as I said, it's the standard how I know it. So we have a hidden function more or less that nobody can access, and we can have this one. And the cool thing about this structure compared to the init structure, in my opinion, is that we don't have the init function. So if we want, we can test all of that. We can make sure that this method has been called. We can make sure that all of the information are correct. Wow, that was super loud. What was that? Sorry for that. A new subscriber, thank you, welcome. So all of that is quite interesting. So because that validates already the idea that we are not too far off with our development process, right? So the things that we are doing making sense. Then he has this config, and this could be interesting. What does the config do actually? He uses a tool called Viper. I think this is something like .env. Let's see, Viper Golang with fangs. Okay. Viper is heading towards V2. Love to hear. Share your info. Okay, what is going on here? Viper is a complete configuration solution for Go application, including 12 factor apps. Okay. To work with in an application and can handle all types of configuration needed in formats. Okay, so yeah, as I said, it will take some information from JSON, TOML, and so on, and then it will take this information and pass it somehow. Set default, interesting. Set config type, name, so env.yaml inside of config will be taken to read the configurations from. And then what do we do? Relative path, get conf. We pass in the configuration where it is needed. And these configurations are all empty at the moment. But here we could have like the server name, database address, URLs, things like that that we need in general, which we don't want directly to expose everywhere. That's my... Uh-oh. The battery of my mouse is empty. Perfect timing. So let's switch that. Kick my keyboard off to the side. Up. So let's work directly on the Mac, like perfect workers. Haven't done that for a while. But cool. Then we have the controllers, and I think this could be something like our domain layer that we don't have yet. But what I would like to do and check is if there is some kind of, where are the endpoints registered actually? So we have the server, we have the router go, router new controller, health controller. Okay, so we have this health controller, health status. So router get health status. So we register them directly here. And we have some middleware for the authentication. Okay, that makes sense. Interesting, let's have a look. So middleware is always something that is executed for each call that we make onto the server. In this case, we go into this function here. And what happens is we get the configuration, X auth key, we get an auth secret. So we read that from the request, take this information, and then trim space key 0, okay. So we do some things, and then at the end, yeah. So at the end we do a quick check if we are authenticated at the moment. That's quite it. And then the controllers are then our services at the end. Yeah, so here is what we are doing. Status. Okay, so this is the method that we have, like status, for example. And if we check again into the server, we can see in the router, I think we saw it, we create a new controller. So we create this controller service at the end and pass it directly into this route. We have that a little bit different, and I'm not sure why it is so in this place here. I mean, we could do it. As I said, we have at the moment that in our API. and we register these methods directly from here, what we are wanting to call. And then we just reference from these groups, like to the different layers that we want to access it. That the API layer has direct access to the repo is not perfect, as I said. So we could have like a folder for controllers too, and we can pass in here controllers.getAllGroups, and in there we will take all calls to the repository. Why is a domain layer even necessary? Well, imagine you would need some data from the user first. So you go to the database for the user, get this information. Then you take, for example, this user information that you have to receive all the information about his groups or about his, let's take a different example, about any data that only belongs to this user. Now you need to get this information too. So these handlers would get very, very big. And the API layer should be very slim and just take care of Swagger, like documentation purposes, and validation that the incoming request data is correct and makes sense. And the last part is to pass it to the next service layer that takes care of the work there. So I think we can name that as we want, but if we want to take it controller, I think that's fine. Good. Makes sense so far? Any questions? Anything that I confused you with? Then let's see. Whoops. Hey Taku, your first time watching the live stream. Welcome here. Did I use? Yes, I considered serverpod as a beginning. The thing is, I was just going to the migrations part, and I anyway want to learn Go. So it is like improving myself. You know, Dart and Flutter, I feel now very proficient. And in these live streams, I always try to find new edge cases and to try to find something that I can improve with. And I think to create a Go server is quite challenging. And additionally, if we take a look into programming, language, speed, benchmarks, let's see if we find one. Maybe reversal, for example, exactly. So if we search for Dart, and we would like to compare that with anything else, like here we can see 900 timeout and so on and so forth. And I think there is a possibility, here, so let's compare Dart versus Go. And how do you current benchmarks, contribution, binary trees? I think we could make there a little graphics that showed that very nicely. But you can see, compared to Go, Dart is usually always a little bit slower. So it is crazy how fast Go is compared to any other language. Also, Rust is an example for extremely powerful programming speed. But if I see binary tree, it seems that the time is quite long for Go out of some... Yeah, as I said, I need the graphics. I think you see, for example, here we have only 13 versus 0. Wow, okay, we have a, a Gewitter. How do you call it? A storm sooner or later coming up. But in general, because Dart exists only with this doc objects everywhere, like everything in Dart is an object, we are quite slow with Dart compared. You see here, HTTP server, Go has 350 milliseconds, and Dart is here with 800 milliseconds. But honestly, if you are working with a private project, serverpod is absolutely fine. I just wouldn't use it directly for a full, a full-blown app with everything. So I think Go has still a little bit of a power, advantage at the end. Okay. Good. Makes sense, I think. Still, I would like to think a little bit. What would be the benefit if we create the services and pass them in? The benefit of that would be that we can directly use it as... if we create the services, we could register that inside of something like Gedit, like a service locator. Even though service locators are getting more and more hated from the community. So let's have a look quickly. Service locator anti-pattern. There are so many discussions at the moment, and service locator is usually something like Gedit, for example. You would like to get the service from anywhere, and then you can directly start with it, to using it. There are some problems with it, but it is like a lot of discussions there. I think if you use it wisely, it is quite nice to use, but it could have some problems, and you can read about that a little bit more. But yeah, there are a lot of discussions. I think the most problematic thing is actually that you decouple more or less your information from the code, and people don't like that so much. I have no strong feelings against that, but if you have the idea or you would like to read into that more, check that out first before you implement something like a service locator. Hey Hamish, nice to see you. Good, so if we would not have a service locator, would we have any benefit of not directly importing it as we wanted? I don't think so. So my idea in the long run would be, or maybe we can also implement that now, I don't like the name controller, because controller always refers to model view controller, in my opinion. It's my thinking, but it could be that I'm so much in the front-end world that this comes automatically. So model view controller is not what we want to achieve on a server, because we don't have a view necessarily, right? So middleware is very strictly combined to the server, like Gonic. So my name is still services. So I would call it service layer or domain layer. Domain means business logic, you know, but on the other hand, that's not always true. So maybe service is still valid. So services, where we have that part, and we would have, for example, for this part here, we would not make a call to repo get all groups, we would make it to services. And that makes maybe also more sense. So we have here our services for groups .go. And inside of here, we can then create our func get all groups. And then at the end, we copy. We can even leave that. That's perfect even, because what we can do now, and I forgot about that, is we can abstract that. So repo.we can get this. And now we can test this information here. So we get all of that. And at the end, we return the I. And I is in our case the groups. So how do I, returning groups, he don't like that. The reason is we don't specify that we return it. So that is in our case api.group probably. And this will not work because of the circular dependency. So I think this group model will then belong more or less to the domain, not anymore to the API, which is quite handy actually. I like that a lot. Makes it a little bit more cleaner. Create type group, I think group models group. Here we go. So with that we return that, and you cannot use group in, yeah, sure, because this is a slice and not only just one thing. So. And what we can do is saying there is an error or this, and I think for that we have to make that in a bracket. So return error and nil, and there we return nil and groups. So why is that not working? Cannot as error type, so probably I have to make a star in front. No. How did that work? Error? Ah, perfect. Good. So now we have that. This works, and we can get this information directly here. And in our API, we would then just call the domain. No, how did I know? Services. Get all groups. So, and with that, we have decoupled that a little bit, and we have the possibility to test this part way easier, because we have to just abstract the repository. And that's quite an issue right now, because for testing it's still a problem, because the repo is directly injected. We cannot mock it. We could not give our own repository with our own answers. So maybe we have to think about that also in the future. Any questions? Hey Tariko Good, nice to see you again. I hope I did not let you the last time alone with your questions and you got all the infos that you needed. Hup. So let's see. By the way, we can also go to GitHub, where I have the repository open. Does not animate. Oh look, our bug has been worked on. Ui, crazy. What is going on? I was able to reproduce and solve by passing grid view, having a listen. The issue was scroll under elevation as being. Sorry for getting distracted, but hey, it seems that we get a nice little animation now slowly into our header. Look at that, beautiful. Next version with my changes. Well, good. Didn't want to drift off. Sorry for that. You know me. I'm never on the topic that I should be. So what is going on? Please GitHub. So I would like to go into our repository, the Warcraft free game tracker server. And let's see. Main branch is not protected. I know there has nothing happened so far. Great stuff. Okay. Do you need employers? Unfortunately, not yet. And if, then that would be more editing role, like editing of colors and or videos or things like that. Or maybe create some sample repositories. But at the moment, sorry, don't searching for people. Will change maybe in the future. Let's see. Okay, good. We have that. Maybe as a social media expert, that would be also fantastic. I still have there some issues actually. Good. Anyway, so we get that. And as I said, this repo is currently not really testable. How did the repository that we looked into have for solutions there actually? It would be interesting. So not this one. What was it? The Golang Gonic template folder structure. This person here. Let's see. So that's maybe why he created the folder. Makes that sense. But if he uses that then in the server part, in the router part, would that be easier testable here? So we have the method status then. And inside of the controller, he has health go. And this part would be very easily testable, right? Let me quickly think. He has the type health controller struct. Func health controller status. It's an override of the method. That's interesting. He works a little bit different here. But this method is then accessible. And let's say this health controller would have access to the repository. That would not change anything, right? For the database, it would not be a difference. Then we have the database, but we don't have an example on how the database is working. But maybe I can override it anyway, because what I think is I can override this package maybe directly. Let me quickly check something, you know, for what do we have ChatGPT nowadays, right? So let's wait up. So let's try that. Maybe it has a fantastic answer for us directly. So going here, passing in that here. How would you make the repo in a way that in a test I can mock it? How would you make the repository function testable? Like, no, repository function mockable. Interface that your repository should implement. Group repository interface. Get all groups. Okay. To use this interface instead of the concrete implementation. Get all groups. Repo models. But this is a pass in, right? So it comes from somewhere. Models group repository. But this is not a model. Now you can create a mock implementation of the repository for your test. Mock. Func m group repository get all groups. So we pass in this on this repository struct that we can then that it has been called and it returns something. Mock in your test, specifying the behavior you want to have it test all. Mock repo. We create a new mock repo. Okay, but in general, what we can say is we have to pass it in as something. So we cannot use it like this. And the idea of ChatGPT is to say that we have it as an own structure or interface in this case. So how would that look like? So we have our repository and we have the group. So does that mean I have then like a group interface or something? Group interface? I know, very ugly name. Please feel free to add that, but we can also say group I or something. I think all of that is not a good alternative. Interface. Let's see. And here we would have an how does it work? It's a type. Okay. So type group repository group repository. Okay, and then we say interface. And inside of here we have the get all groups function, which we can call, makes sense. And then we pass in what we return, which is a slice of models.group and error. So now we have defined that. And in our case, we would say then in our group service that we pass that in as repo, which is then this group repository. We have that here, group interface. So that is our repo dot something like that could be possible. But I think this is now vice versa, right? So I should turn it around. That's we would pass in the error first and then up and then this. Why would I push the error first? I think it's the default world in Go, right? So if no, it's not. It's exactly opposite around. Okay, stupid. Then let's turn it around again to make it fitting. So group error. Fantastic. So in our group we have that. It will complain now. That's fine because here we have to specify that. So the dependency lives then here in the API service of the services. But maybe we can also initialize or create a new service with new and then pass in the dependency in the server Go into it. We have to check that. So look routing, you can use faker. Okay, faker look routing. Ah, you mean in the example project? Yeah. And what is faker? I think faker creates us Golang faker. What are you doing? Probably it's like faking the struct data faker. Faker will generate you fake data. Okay, makes sense. Yeah, faker will create us data, but actually we don't need faker because if I understand it right, we don't want to fake data. What we want is faking a structure or faking an interface more or less. So how can we do that? If we think about this, so we have that created now, this group interface. And maybe it makes sense at the moment that we put that into our server. And in our server, we have this setup part where we register our endpoints, right? And the idea would maybe that we pass into that if we create something like our API parts, that we pass in the dependency that we have. So if we remember the, what was it, Golang, here, this one, the Gojin boilerplate. What we can see here is that we create in the server part, router, we create this controllers. Now I'm just a little bit unsure. If this has a dependency, how would that look like? If I make new, like Golang new, up. That's not what I want. That's much better educative. Let's see the new keyword in Golang. Structure, exactly. So we have a structure that we want to create and make a pointer for the structure. And if I have a dependency on that, new person, more users, seems not to be possible to pass in some dependencies, if I see that right. We can then set values, okay, and then we print it. I could make a service attribute on the struct and then pass in the structure. Okay, I have way too many changes. I have to collect my thoughts first before I do that. And with that, what I want to say is before I start with that whole service part here, I will shelve that once more so that I can collect my ideas a little bit better and make it more visible for you guys what I want to achieve. So first of all, everything here can be shelved. Don't need that at the moment. All that models and things like that. Or better, we shelve everything. So shelf, go. So now everything is gone for now. Everything is empty, and we don't probably we lost the option for the groups to create in the API. That's fine. So we want that part. Yes, exactly. So this is unshelved because we want to use that. And then here, what do we have? Get all groups. This is the repository part. We want that for now. The tools part where we create the handler. Then we have this probably in a repo entity. We need that. Group interface on the repo. I think we don't necessarily need that. Services models, probably we need that. We just move that around. So this one necessary will be unshelved. Group entity unshelved. Leak go. What here we have some dependencies changing. I think we don't necessarily need that. Also just some import stuff. But that's for the model because we moved that from the API models to the other. So let's unshelve that for now, just to make it green, and then we can shelve it, move it around again. Also this one. Setup go, we register. I think we need that, and we have this part. Okay, unshelve, go. So now the only thing that we need is moving from our service the models again to the API layer. How it belongs, so for now. So, and with that, everything should be green, and we can commit that because we are able to make a request to receive our groups. But for that, we have to make a small change here in the group. Go to the repo directly. Good. So I think that was from the last time. We can commit that. Still working. So we have a feature implemented, an endpoint to receive all groups from our database. There are some issues I see right now. So review to do, no, that's okay. The code is important, is not selected. Protocol, yeah, okay, we can select one that the engine is happy, fair enough. Here, okay, now the imports are wrong. Fair enough. Unresolved type leak, I think that is done now. That should work now. Same thing for here, this is API. API, oops. And the API group. So perfect, no questions so far. Sorry, I just work around here a little bit for myself at the moment. Good. So with that, we have this all in place. I think this we can ignore so far, but we need that. So we amend that. Amend is connecting two commits that you had before. So if you have not pushed them yet, you can very easily do that. So you have one commit message for all these changes. And now the CTX is not used, that is on purpose, and the to-dos are also on purpose, so let's push anyway. Good. So now we have an empty slate where we can work on, and what I would like to do is creating like to-do MD, like a very small to-do list that I have for myself at the moment. We will not commit that, so we can ignore it for now. It's like to-do MD. Oops. Nobody needs that, so git revert schwoops. If you think about why I'm using so much the mouse at the moment, I just have no possibility because I work on the Mac itself at the moment, so I'm not used to that so much. Okay, so we ignored this to do. I think we can also add that. It's just a small chore. Added to do MD to collect my thoughts. All right, so what I would like to do, the problem. First problem. We cannot test properly because we have everywhere strict dependencies between the services. Solutions. So first solution that we can do is we use not the typical testing pyramid, and we cannot make so many unit tests, but then we can have a lot of integration tests like we did the last time. So we would have in the integration part, you know, we just call everything and we don't care if the dependencies are wild and everything is hardly connected. But geez, if we ever want to change something and we have to replace one service with another because everything is so tough and tangled, we will have a tough time to change that. Now we can say for the first beginning service, we could do that. And then whenever this problem happens and occurs, we can then change it. But for now, it would be, you know, it's like bad design, and it would be bad to start like that and then ignore it just. So have a lot of integration tests and ignore unit testing. So problem 1. Strong entanglement is hard to resolve. Problem 2. Unit testing is quite hard and no mocking of services possible. Mock of services are possible. So that's that. And now another solution would be we have to loosen the tight coupling. So, and this would be my preferred method. Why? Because, well, it's everywhere in the world you find clean code and I don't know, all the best practices in the world. And that's usually how you do it. So that means we would have structures. Structures. Let me think. Loosen the tight coupling structures with the implementation of the methods. And then we can mock them. Example. Let's take the one from ChatGPT because that is at the moment the best guess I have, but I think this is how we can do it. So first of all, we would create an interface somehow. Let me do it like this, not Azure, that's Go. Zack. We would create an interface. With this interface, we then have the possibility to pass that inside of the method. Then we would have this, get all groups, okay. And last but not least, we would have this option. So, and in my opinion, this sounds already quite okayish because we have the possibility to mock everything and so on. The only downside I see at the moment is that we have to pass in this repo to all the different methods that we have. Like if we have in the service layer, we have the repository, then we would need to pass it to every service to every service method that uses this repository. The better approach would be that the service class or structure has knowledge of this repository, and then we can pass it once and then it works. Something like this would be, in my opinion, the best approach. But how can we do that? In class systems like Java and in things, it's quite easy, but here I don't necessarily understand how it would work. So we have this models group repository and someone who is the caller of get all. That would be down here. So we have to create a new mock repository and we make get all groups and pass it in. How would you do that? Dependency go lang add to structure. So it seems that I'm not the only one who thinks that. Don't know it. First of all, the question is slightly subtle because it depends largely on your project and how your project lays out. That being said, here is what I would do if I were you. Considering adding types package, a type package would rarely be dependent on anything else but any... Yeah, okay, this is just dependencies that we have. How to inject dependencies. Maybe this is the right search term. Variadanic functions and self-referential. Wow. You should create the main service. In our snippet, it is accounts. In it, the second service, subscription. It will be probably property for the main service. Okay. After that, you should bind the second service and set properties for the first service. So SPS accounts binds subscription. Where we pass in the client subscription user. Account options SPS. This one returns options. And finally we process business logic. New subscription bind. Then we have new subscription, new billing, new bind subscription, bind billing. And we add options, process. Let's search for dependency injection. Golang dependency injection. The ultimate guide. So let's see, Matthias, what you have for us. The best basics of dependency. Creating structure is an essential part of implementing the behavior. Used to define objects, while interfaces are used to define the behavior. It's now... Let's see if I can easily, quickly implement. I think I can't. Let's take this account. Let's hope it will have some free readings. No, it doesn't. I hate Medium sometimes, really. With wire, yeah, so this is a service locator probably. I'm not such a big fan. The best practice is not to use a DI library. Okay, Go is meant to be a simple language that is easy to follow. Okay, we abstract that away from you and to some extent make DI magical. If this is classes as best practice, please. Considering that Google created Wire as a DI system that avoids reflection and maintains, okay, Google's Wire looks promising. There are some articles. Okay, so what is Wire then? Wire is a code generation tool that automates connecting components using dependency injection. Dependencies between components are represented in Wire as functional parameters instead of global variables, because Wire operates without runtime state or reflection. Code written to be used with Wire is useful, even handwritten initialization. Okay, let's see, what is Wire doing? Press throughout, okay, for readers eager to see to large service, okay. Greeter event struct, okay, the message type just wraps a string for now, okay. New greeter message M will need references to the message, so let's create. Okay, so the greeter would, in our case, would have the dependencies to the repository, and the repository would then pass that in. And then we assign messages to greeter. No questions so far, that's great. The initializer will assign a message field to greeter. Now we can use the message when created a greet method on greeter. To have a greeter, blah blah blah, greeter, new event, new message, new greeter, event, new event, greeter. So this is how I know the stuff, but new... Still not very happy. Okay, let's... because I don't want to start with a package directly, you know, because that is usually heavy lifting and it's also bad for learning practices, because now I still don't know how DI is working in Go. Let's see, injection in Go. So we come still to medium, which is good, but still. Ah, maybe Geek for Geeks has something, my favorite page in the world. So let's search for, or let's search here. Whoops. Go dependency injection. In Android Kotlin. Nah, it's also just that. Solid principle, what are design, what is when creating. The key player. Ah, here, how to implement it. Okay, so to better understand the concept of DI, let's try to implement a simple example of logging, which takes a list of messages, print each out, and finally aggregates them together. Here's some example. So we pass in the message, and the message will be passed to log it. Message has a logger inside. Okay. Okay, but how can I be sure that the logger exists? It's just with the structures. Okay. So if I understood that correct, let's remove all of that for now. I mean, we have that anyway in our ChatGPT part. So let's say go. And jetzt solution. So first of all, we would need a structure. So struct of type struct. We have here our, for example, our repository. What is it? Group repo struct that we have. And inside of here, we need our dependency. No, that's not the group repo. It's the group service. Yeah. So we get our service, and in our service we want to have a group repo at the end from the type repo.group or group, something like that. So this is wrong out of some reasons. It's type struct. Type struct. Why is it wrong? Package accepted got type. Okay, so take any package main. Why not? It's just an example. Good, so we would have this, we can even write that now down, I guess that makes more sense. So in our services, we would need to have some, group service, for example, .go. I think that is against my naming convention, right? We have it small written at the moment. Group service. Oh. And here we have the type group service struct, which then contains the repository, the repo, which is the group repo, repo.group. So. That is not, the problem is it is not a struct itself. So even there we have the problem. So the group here, group repo. .go. So this one is also type group repo struct, and this one has then the methods inside. Probably this is like the interface that we created beforehand, but because we don't have an interface but a structure, probably this could be an interface because it doesn't has any dependencies. So this could be an interface which has then this group method, get all groups, which returns us, and it's also the wrong way around. I see that right now. Sorry for that. So we would have this way. And we can take that. So it would not get any dependency, but this would be the return type. So And this one can then be used in our group service. So you would then have a group repo from repo.group repo. So now this group service has this structure. And now I would probably have to override it with all the information that we need. So let's see, here we have an error. Yeah, this is of course now wrong, my error. So, because I turned it around, which is fine. So, and now probably the API is driving crazy. Not yet. Let's fix that anyway. So, great stuff. Okay. So the problem is now that the methods are still residing on anywhere. So they are just anywhere. And this cannot be the case anymore. So we take this, bring it over to the group repo. And the idea is now that we override, I don't know if this is now correct. So let's say G group repo star. No. Invalid receiver type group repo is an interface type. Aha, I cannot pass methods onto an interface. How does that work now? So Golang interfaces. I really hope I don't bore you too much with my no knowledge at the moment. So let's see, go by example interfaces. Interfaces are named collections of methods and signatures. Okay, so we have area and param, which return float 64. Probably I have to, yeah, so first we have to execute and then the return type. Good. Okay, and how does we know it now? So area is where? It's here. And we have it on top of the rectangle, and rectangle is structure that has nothing to do with it. Rect. So is it automatically known then that this is part of it? It's crazy. For example, we implement the interface on rect and circle types. Area and param, but we can't see that here, right? It's nothing declared or anything. To implement an interface in Go, we just need to implement all the methods of the interface. Here we implement geometry on rects. Okay, because this is not a real implementation. So what we would have is then rect, and then we just pass in the function on top of it. Would it be possible to give that to be a struct directly and then have this method not as a... Maybe this is an interface. But then I would need a group repo repository struct, and because that implements that now, we have group repository, then it works. Ooh, I verbibst. Okay, so that means this interface is now implemented from this repository, and this repository struct is then used. Okay, so and this one is used at the group service, which is a structure, which is the implementation. And now if we would like to have a group service, there we could have then also a type group interface something. Something like that. And then we would implement all the methods that we would like to have, like for example, get groups or get all groups, which we execute, and we return a slice of models.group or error. So, and because this structure has no implementation, we would then have like this get all group func. I'm slowly getting into it. G group service. So on top of group service, we pass that in, have the function called get all groups. Executing that, and here we return something. And probably we have to specify that we return a slice of models.group and error. So, and this is now an implementation. And this group service, this is a little bit awkward. So the interface of group service I has been implemented from the group repository. Not sure where that comes from. Let's call it also an I, not sure. So we have these interfaces here separate. Again, these are the very first steps for me with interfaces and structures and so on. So please don't hesitate to give me some feedback if you think I'm doing here something completely nuts. The reason I'm doing that is still to make this testable or easily testable for me. Let's see. Okay, we have now the interfaces for the group service. You are unresolved. Group repo I. Yeah, so you have the interface inside. Fair enough. Then this is that. You are complaining because you have no return type. That's true. Return nil for now. And now we can implement here that we would like to use our group repo. Group repo. I'm not sure if we can make that small. Or can I use g.group repo? Get all groups. Ah, now it works. Okay, fantastic. Then we have this, and at the end we return nil or error, or we return groups and nil. Okay, slowly I'm getting there. Slowly I'm getting there. Makes sense, makes sense. It looks just different. It's still the same thing, but it looks different. You know, at the end, if we would combine this and this, we would have a class in Java or any other language. So it's just a different writing style that I have to get into it. And we don't say explicit, like, I don't know, in Java, we would have like class, group, service, and then we would have implements, group, service, interface or something like that. And then we would have this whole thing. We could then directly implement it here. Here it is just a little bit different written. Maybe there is even a function or possibility to directly import all the interfaces or create all the interfaces for us. Because if I saw that right, if I remove that, it don't really complains about it, that it is missing. So hard to tell if we have to implement it always ourselves or if there is like a generator. But I think because it's so loosely tightened or so loose, it could be that we don't even have these possibilities, that the IDE can't pass that into us. Okay, great. So that means we have this, we have that. The repository currently does not have any dependency, that is correct. And the API, on the other hand, has dependencies. And probably we also want to create a struct and interface for this. So let's say we have the type group API interface where we pass in what we want to have. So we need an access to our service, right? So how do we do that? This is the group service. Yep, and we want to have that group service, something like that. Group service. No, wait, this is the interface of the group API. Here inside we define all the functions that we have, right? So all groups handler, where we pass in the context of, or do we need that? I think just something like this would be sufficient. Good, and we don't return anything, that's right. So we copy and clone that. One group handler, CTX gin, okay. And the last thing is create new group handler, CTX gin.context. Good, so we pass all of them in and we don't return anything, that's fine. So our interface is set. Once more, have a look here. This is just the methods, correct? And also here just the methods, but the structure has something. Can I say that the structure has also the repo.group repo I? Does that make sense? Yeah, so probably, but why? It's no implementation. So probably don't even need that. So then in our structure of the API, we would need also the, so this is our interface again. type group API struct. No, what do we need? The repository repo. No, wait, this would be our service in this case. That is our group service I that I import. And the idea is now that this method here is on top of group API, group API interface, no, group API, exactly. So we have created that service, yeah, or group service, you can call it. And then we would have that here, g.group service, get all groups. Fantastic, it works. The only weird thing now is why does it not identify that this is the import of this? How did I manage that here? Group repository, get all groups. Ah, okay, because the method is probably not right named or something. Type interface, no usages. Why is this one not dependent now? Is it because of the CTX or? So this works with that, but the API is not. Interesting. Why is the interface now not recognized? All groups handler, the name is correct. One group handler. Oh, why is this broken now? That's also a good question. Probably I need to create first the new, I think that's it, group API. Yeah, G. And now we have G dot. Yeah. And this could be then in the layer before, and then I have to pass in the service actually. Probably this is an option. Okay, gotcha. Any questions? No, everyone is happy. Fantastic. Let me quickly, yeah. Okay, so we have our group API. So why is it not recognized? It's a little bit odd. So I have this interface and I have this interface. Here I define a return type and it works out of the box immediately, like free implementation, it tells us. Maybe this is even a problem because we don't have free implementations. This one returns also the same. Don't know how this interacts now. If we have free implementations of the same interface, could be a problem. So I want that this one is, and then has everyone now dependencies to the repository is the question. You have, and you need to, you have, and you, well, yeah, you could have, and you shouldn't. Okay, fantastic. Maybe, so let's take this one as the, because maybe not all of them have been imported. Gin.context. Yeah, fantastic, makes sense. So if as soon as I add a second one, because not all of this are implemented in this interface, it is not reliable. Now I understand. Okay, makes sense, makes sense. I will tell you that in a sec. So we learned that all of these methods have to be imported so that the interface is connected. And because we only have that now on our all groups handler, it's not all of these methods. So if we add it all here, then the interface is working fine. Fantastic. So same thing for here. So we have now the g dot. And what we can do, instead of passing in this, we can then say here is a second parameter, like the service. And the service is from the type group API interface. So we can pass in any service that we would like to that has the same structure. So now we have this service, and in our main, on our server setup, probably we have an error. So here we could have set up our services. And one service that we need is a new group API from API. And are you happy with that? Yeah, so G equals or group API. You complain, unused variable, that's true. We can pass in that here. And then we should be fine already. Why is it red? Group API I type does not implement group API I, as some methods are missing all groups handler. That's false, probably. And here I made a mistake. This is obviously new API group. Aha, fantastic, much better. Good, we create now this group API, pass it inside of here, because all of that is implemented. We can use it here, and here we just add that to our different levels. Good, so that means this one is testable, because as soon as I create it, I have to pass in the group service, this group service part here. Oh, but where is it defined now? Fuck. Now I did so much stuff, but for the implementation, it's nowhere defined, you know? Maybe in that server part where I have been seconds ago, here, if I say group API dot, it's a new one, group API. So let me make that slice thick. So now it is accessible. Is that right? Group, yes. And now I can pass in a service, like for example, repo group repository. And probably we have to say new. Okay. Okay, I think that makes sense somehow. It is a little bit tricky, but yeah. Now we have that. Any questions so far? Sarochi, hey. Yeah, I try to learn here Go, so bear with me if not everything works directly out of the box. Okay, but that means we have now some kind of dependency injection, because what I did is inside of here we have this, but we have to do that for all different services. So whenever I'm using something, we have to pass that in. What I don't see yet is we have in the group service here, we have a new this group repo, which needs to be also capitalized, because we have to set that probably. So that means in our setup Go, we would then have this group service, and we want, why is it a group repository? I think this one is a group service from the this level. Exactly, so this is not even right. We get it. Sorry, some helicopters action here. So we don't want to pass in the new repository actually. What we would like, this group service must be the service, right? So that is group service from the service layer. Exactly. So, and let's make a new services.group services. And now probably I have to access the group service. No. Wait. Why can't I access the group repo? maybe I have to do it a little bit differently. So group service equals new to services dot group service. And then we have to say group service dot group repo equals to. Now we have to pass in the repo repository. Exactly. So, and probably I would do it this way, that I say group repo equals to this one. So that means every part has now knowledge about what it needs and it works. And this one takes now the group new service. I doubt it, because that would be then our group service here. So we connect these things. Yeah, I think that is the solution. That should work. Let's try it. I mean, what is the worst part that can happen? Docker is not running. Lazy me. Let's fix that. Can you make a video about Shorebird? Sure, I would love to, but at the moment I still have to first release an app, I guess. My last app that I have released is unfortunately taken down from Google Play Store so far. Because I did not give new updates and it was not so much used, so they dropped it. So as soon as I have again something deployed and on the Google Play Store or Apple Play Store, then I will make one. I have that absolutely planned. So database is up, server is up. So now I would like to get all groups, right? So group, get all groups handler. So let's go into our tools part, in our groups part, and get that. We get an empty list. Is that what we expected? That is exactly what we expected. Okay. That means all the services, all the things that we have created now seems to work. All these interfaces and stuff. The only thing that I'm currently not so happy with is this registration of all the services, because that means we have billions of services in the worst case, you know? We have then group API, group service, group repo, we have all the different layers and everything has to work with everything. Not optimal, I guess. On the other side, is there a better solution? Is the question. Hard to say. Oh, I have their light on. It's a bit too much, I guess. Oh, sorry. So, but I had already quite a revelation. I think that helps me already a lot with understanding how these interfaces are working. They're a little bit crazy in my opinion, but okay. So we would have quite some boilerplate and to create all of that. Is that a problem? I think at the moment it's not. I would do that anyway. The only thing that I would like to do is creating here a new method that we clean that a little bit from the other part. So we have register services. And now we pass in all of these where we create the services and register them to the different services. And do we need something? What do we return here actually? I think we create all these services, then we pass them in, and we need the group API at the end. So at the moment we return this. Or for now, let's keep it like it is. Who cares? Just keep it simple here. Can I not extract it? I think so, right? Oh, yeah. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So register group API. Something like that. So with that we have this, we have registered it, we are on the right endpoint and we can call it, right? So our endpoint is working. That's already quite a success, I think. And now, because why would we do that if not for testing? So let's write a test for that stuff. So that means our API, let's keep it for now, but our services, for example. So we would like to test this method. So that should be possible by creating here group service test.go. And inside of here, yeah, you know what? I take that, and as I said beforehand, let's create it with ChatGPT, because why not? Please write a test for the following method. Why is this Docker part so in front of it? So we have the mock, we have the mock group repo that we pass in. We override there some things. First, you should create a mock for similar to what we mentioned previous. Okay, and then you get all groups method. Okay, so that would mean we have also, where do we store mocks? Probably we would have some kind of test folder, but then we have dependencies to somewhere. You know what? I just pass it here inside. Probably that's also allowed. But package mocks, so it really creates a package for it. Okay, then let's have a test folder where we have the folder for mocks. And inside here we have our group service mock. So getting rid of that. Testify, mock, 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 good. And then our test, how would that look like? Like this. Services, good. Import that, repo mocks. Okay, he believes that the mocks should live inside of repo, because these are the mocks for the repo. Okay, let's do that for now. Repo mocks, and inside of here we would like to have a mock for mock group repo. Okay, we have that, that makes sense. And then we have this tracker, self import is not allowed, so remove that. Let's see where we are here. ID is probably this written, fantastic, easily fixed. And this is usually a string, I guess, or? No, UUID, okay. No, we want to parse. No, parse, and we pass in here 1. The problem is that parse, do we not get parse bytes, must parse, like this? Perfect. And same thing for the 2. Good. Now, what do we have else? Services, group service. Create an instance of the test object. Services, group services. Just remove that, exactly. We pass in the mock repo. Get all groups, no error. Length, assert, no error. T error, okay. The length should be 2 equal to 1 and 2. That looks quite good. So let's try and test that. Run the test and problem. Okay, go mod tidy. We can do that. G, go to our terminal. Or you know what? I open my new fantastic warp terminal. My favorite terminal that I use at the moment for all the different kinds. Clear. So what we are here. Go mod tidy, please. No, tidy. Not in a current directory. Because I am in the client. Makes sense. We are not here. We are in others. ls. Game tracker. cd Warcraft 3 game tracker server. No, this is now. Wait, where are we actually? Where does this folder reside? Let's go to the terminal. pwd. And Golang, okay, makes sense. Good. What did I say? I wanted to go mod tidy. So that worked extremely fast. So how is it going with the test? Can I execute it now? Run. Compiling. Error. Invalid UUID 1 recovered. Invalid UUID. Okay. Yeah. UUID test cases or UUID generator. Exactly. Give me just a UUID. I think this one. bulk version, even better. Up here. Doesn't work. Can't copy. No, copy. Perfect. So that means we have the first UUID. And can I get a second one? So this one. So that means we can actually, oh, we don't even need the ID actually. So green. Perfect. So we have now our UUIDs, the tests are green, and with that we can be sure that this test is covered and it covers all the important parts. So that being said, we have mocked everything. We have the group interface. We managed to mock the repository in the backend. We don't have to worry about that too much. That's quite a success. I'm happy with that actually. Cool. So we managed to get the interfaces right and to mock everything as we need it. Is there any issue with that? We can then even test the service here if we would like to. Have that all set up. Good. I think then we can directly call that as a test or refactor. We made oh, my camera is shut down. Why? I'm up. Just a second. Somehow my camera is off. No reason. Is the power supply off? Not inside of the. Sorry for that. My camera is not in the power plug, so that is obviously the reason why the camera is not working. But hey, Kenyan, nice to see you. So let's switch here quickly, and while I'm fixing my technical issues here, what a stupid mistake. Tip. You know, it's not like I'm live streaming every second day, so there has to be always these issues. Up. So if I change that to FaceTime, it's not even, that one is not even activated. Let's see then. Passing this one. Luckily, I have multiple cameras from which I can choose from. Just if they are supported. What is going on now? I need this technical difficulties image from The Simpsons. No chance to recover the camera. I can use this one. It's not very nice, but hey, still better than none. There you are. Okay, so that being said, we have done this. We have now all the dependencies, refactoring, introduced, what did we introduce? Like interfaces and dependency injection to make it possible to test our services and layers in how do you call it, if it's just a very small part of the application, and layers in isolation. Good, that was quite a success in my opinion, because that reduces already a lot of problems. But on the other hand, not only that we have now unit testing, which is quite nice, what I would like to do is also improve our integration tests here. So for that, we introduced the group test.go. And what I would like to do is inside of here, we want to write a test that tests all the aspects like server, backend, database, all the parts, and should make sure that it works correctly. So the same way that we did with the service, with the league serves. And what we did for that is we initialized the testing here and the init DB. And at the moment we initialize, we remove everything from the database for testing. And then we introduce a new model, in this case the league. And what we would like to do is create also some test data for our groups. So we would like to have a test group, which is new models dot group. And then we say test group dot ID. We don't necessarily need one, but we can even use one. The good part here is we have that UUID generator. Let's use that again. Dot ID, pass it. ID equals to UUID dot parse. I'll pass in the string here, and that should do the trick. Must parse. Good. Test group dot, what do we have else? Name. Peon pit, for example. Peon pit. Test group dot status is in progress. Group vetoes we have 3. Test group dot let's copy that several times. So what do we have else? Or can I not make that easier? Wait a second, can I not say something like models dot group and then make this nice little thing behind? Group and then fill all fields. Yes. Dot parse, then we can pass in our UUID that we had seconds ago, this one. And instead of parse, we have, of course, must parse. Good, then we have the name, which is our, I don't know, test group. We have a league ID. Oh, we have even a league, so probably could use this here. So we have test league dot ID, and we passed here also a fixed UUID version. So paste that. UUID dot must parse. So, and then we can say that this here is must parse. Shoot, this one. Admin, I don't know, Legolas. Vetoes, we have 3. Maps per match is 3. Status in progress. Good, and this test group is unused, hopefully. Yep, makes sense. And here we have at the moment a repo save group, which we don't have yet, which needs to be the second part that we have. So that we can store in our database directly the group. Okay, because we don't have that yet, I would recommend to directly implement that so that we can make the test possible here. So in our group repository, I think that can be gone actually. So remove that. Don't do that. Yeah, good. Here we have all that now, and get all groups is one, but we have to store also func g group repository, and we want to save group. We pass back just the UUID, which is a UUID or error, and then we store all that, and in comes models.group. So for our repository interface, that tells us save group, and we return a UUID or an error. Does that fit with our league implementation? League has also models league, like save league. We get one and we pass we just pass in the whole league back. So instead of this, we would also say models.group. get all group? Yeah. So that means this one would return models.group. Cool. Okay, so that being said, we would need to get the database connection again. So yep, let's take that for now. And group entities, I think we don't need that. How did we do that in Leak? So we can copy that easier, I think. We insert it, we scan, we get some errors and we return it. I think we can nearly copy that over. And instead of this, we have slightly a little bit different. So we have our models group, which is created. Then we go to our group DB, and here we have different fields. What do we have actually? Can I? Oh, sorry. So exactly. So all of them, and 5. What's the issue here? Qualify identifier public group. Fair enough, makes sense. And we have how many fields? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. And then returning the ID. That makes sense. So, and instead of leak, we have here now, what's the name actually? It's just a group that we get. Group.id, group.veto, no, name, group.admin, group.vetos, group.maps per match, group.status. Why? Good, so that is connected, we pass it in, at the end we wait for the group, group.id. So the question is, if ID is not existent, what do we do? Is that somehow possible? Probably, but we will figure that out later. Returning nil and error. That's not possible. Why? Does it need to be a star? Yeah. Okay. No. How did that work in the leak? Did I? We don't return the error. Okay, fair enough. Then we don't do it here either. Just pass in nil. Still problematic. Okay, here's the star and there's the star. It is nullable. Makes sense. Okay. Fair enough. So we pass in all that, and actually now we should be able to store this information. Is that true? So you should be accessible. Test group, safe group. Where is repo coming from? Safe leak is possible, but the other one not. Get all leaks. Because this is not part of a structure. How can I do that? So we have this repository. Where comes the repo from? That's just a dependency. Okay, gotcha. So we create our test group data, and now we need the repositories running. So that means we need a group repo, which is new group repo repository. So now we say group repo dot save group and then pass in the test group in. That is not completely true because No, why is it complaining? Type models group as type of star model groups. Okay. Why is it so complex? Invalid indirect of models group, name test group. Huh? Invalid indirect of models group. Nope. So if I do this, it complains because this one is this. It is an implementation. But now this complains because this one is not. I don't understand this asterisk. So where is the problem? Let's check it. Golang star model versus model. Don't know. Is this a pattern? Okay. Is Go object yes and no? Okay, great. Now I want to do something similar in Go. The question mark pattern. What? Golang. So the end one is clear. Pointers like we have in C++. Okay, they are pointers. Makes sense. I know they are pointers. So at the end it goes in front of the variable when you want to get the variable memory address. Okay, so if I want to know where it is residing, I use that AND operator. The star operator goes in front of the variable that holds a memory address and resolves it. It is therefore the counterpart to the AND operator. It goes and gets the thing that the pointer was pointing at, e.g. some attribute in front of a type when it becomes part of the type declaration. So you can say this variable holds a pointer to a string. For example, strings. Okay. It can be an operator or part of a type. Okay, so it is part of a type for me. That means we want that this is pointing to something. So this makes sense. We also want to point it afterwards. So also makes sense. The problem is, why is this not working here? Because this does not contain something. So do I have to do it like this? Now we have a reference, right? So, and because this is a reference, we get a star of type. And we have a star of type. We want then to say test group. Can I pass in now all the fields? Is that possible? Equals, no. No, I have then to define all of them. It's so ugly. Okay. You know what, then let's do it this way and say test group dot. Remove this and so this one. Ah. No. Okay, let's remove it here. Ah, wait, we can just replace it. Fair enough, that's easier. So, and searching for that string and replace it by an equal sign. I think that should do the trick. Maybe at the end we have to remove it. Fair enough. Okay, this can be gone. This makes sense. Now we have stored that. We have a new variable that references to something. We point to something, and that should give us the trick. Okay. How do you do that multiple line editing on keyboard? I know you can control click, but that on the keyboard shortcut for it. Yeah, so if you have a pattern, like let's replace that once more, like with this colons here, you know, where's the camera at the moment? Here, hey. Then you press Control G on a Mac keyboard, and then you select and copy your caret to the place where you want to have it. And with that, you can have multi-line development. So another thing is I have on IntelliJ set the key map, and you probably have that on VS Code too, and it's called multiple carets, and you can clone the caret above and below. And these keyboard shortcuts are not set on IntelliJ. So if you want to have them, you have to set them yourself, and afterwards you can then just make Command Shift 1 or 2 and you clone your caret where you need that. And that's actually the whole trick. It needs a little bit of training to make that right, but as soon as you know it, you know, it's always pretty cool to impress some people. No worries, with pleasure. Enjoy. Cool. What do we have else? Besides of that. Chup, chup, chup. Still everyone is happy. Fantastic. Good. So we can now store that, and with that we have this implemented. That means when we have that set up, we create our test group for now. And in our test for our group test, we should then be able to read that. Didn't I have implemented it already? Yeah. I wanted to get this actually, group test. Can add that here. Rename this to test get all groups. Then we make the request to groups. We don't pass anything for the body. We initialize the testing, which sets up the server. We have a new recorder. We store the results somewhere. Response data. We get a JSON, which we can import from encoding. We unmarshal. This comes from the testing playground, probably this one. Fair enough. And then we make sure that this is a test group. And now we can set all the different parts. Result 0 dot. Oh wait, why did we get because result is probably a leak, which is not. It should be a group. And with that we have a name. We have dot vetos, which should be free. What else do we have? We have maps per match, also free. We have status, which should be in progress. League ID, we could check that, but actually because it's a UU ID, it doesn't make so much sense. The admin would be, what did I call it? Setup test DB. Legolas is our admin, can use that. And we could check the UU IDs, but as I said, it's not so necessary. And we have the test group naming. Okay, good. And with all of that, this should be our test already and running. Okay, we get some errors. Fair enough. Cannot use group repo, variable group repository as group E, value in assignment, blah blah blah, save group. Ah yeah, fair enough, because I made a mistake here in the save group. It's a pointer to a group. And probably this is also wrongish because we don't want to pass, get back the error. It's just this way. Yeah, so now it's clean and you are also happy again. So retry. So we got some issues. Servers up. Public group does not exist inside of the test API. And that could be because we have a different server for that. And here we don't have made the migration yet. So let's go into the SQL app and let's run that. And please on the right API, new session. Yeah, and run. Blop. And with that, we should have now here 8 tables with all that we need. Good. We could also automate that for our testing part, but you know, before we run that all the time, ever and ever again, not such a big fan here. So run that and crash. Got 6 parameter, but the statement requires 7. Okay, that's a good problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2. Oh, the leak is missing, right? Group, leak ID. That's the third one. So. Good. Retest. Fantastic. Pass. Good, we made the call, we got a 200 that this is entered, and it seems that we got also our 200 for receiving our data because we made the call, test get op groups, we made also a test for all the leaks, and everything of that seemed to work. So our tests are running fine. Good, so with that we have our test part, created a test, an integration test for our groups endpoint. Now we can rest assured that our endpoint is working well, and we get always a list of groups returned. Good. Here's an error. What is the issue? 2 warnings. Review code. What's the problem? Cannot use mock repo. As some methods are missing, save group, mock repo, mock repo, mock repo, mock mock. Can I not just make mock mock? What's the problem? Don't get it. Cannot use mock repo. Type mocks mock group repo. Repo group type does not implement group repo. Does not implement group repo. As some methods are missing save group. Group service. Wait, this is the group service. You are a repository, and that being said, the group repo here is the interface that has the save group, and this mock repo is this one, and probably because I don't mock repo dot on save group return something like that. So should that work already? Oh, that works anyway, so it's somehow stuck here. This is a structure of mock mock. Ah, down here. Ah, yeah, now I got it. Okay, fair enough. So then this is save group, right? So because this is imported from here, group service interface. Get all groups. This is for services. Why is it jumping to services all the time? This is a get all groups and should not be dependent from Command U from the service. It is actually dependent from the group interface. This one. Yeah. So that means we have the group service mock, and we get that from the group report. It's also not a group service mock, so anyway wrong. It's the group repository mock, repo mock. So not too bad that we'd get this error. So now we just have to fix it. We override the repo because we want to pass in not that. We get this and star and star, and we remove that. So and now we complain a little bit. Args get 0, models group, can remove that. Args 0. M called args get models group. Do I have to do something? Okay, I have to return models group. First of all, did that now work correctly? So we have this is the import. Now it's the right import at least. Okay, great. So slowly it makes sense, and it's good that also the dependencies are now finally breaking correctly. Cannot use args group type models group is type star models group. So can I do it this? Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we got that. The group repository has that, and with that we should be fine with our mocks. I can also override that mock now. Return, and here I can pass in what should be returned. That's that, and with that we should be fine. The tests are running, and I think that one needs to be amended to make it run perfect. Good, and we have no errors anymore. Push. Let's set it up into our repository. Great stuff. Wow, that was a trip today. Woof. Okay, we did quite some things. Okay, so most of it was testing and validating if our repository made sense how it is. Let's see if my camera is working again. And you can see me with a good picture. So it looks good. So let me switch the cam. Switch to that. Fantastic. Good. All right. Let's go into intermission, because I think that is also slowly the end of the stream here. So transition, go. Fantastic. Is that a little bit greenish, or is it just my imagination? No, it's somehow blurry greenish. Weird. Check something. Pull the trigger, pull it back in. Much better. Okay, that were some very interesting problems here. I'm very sorry for all the technical difficulties today, but we managed to create quite something. So we were able to create structures, interfaces, and made our services testable correctly. So we have implemented integration tests that are able to get our full groups. We implemented test data to make sure that our test database has always filled with the correct data that we need. And we had the option to create entities and things like that to make it all a little bit more robust. That means our server in the long run seems to be quite well done. And as you can see, with 200 milliseconds, we can even very easily test our application in the future. For that, we used also a little bit of ChatGPT, and we learned more about the asterisk sign, how we use it, and how we write the code more correct at the end. Also, we have now all the tests for the group go. We have interfaces and structures now since new things. So that means our interfaces are residing to the right things. And in my opinion, this is a quite large improvement. The only downside is that we have maybe a little bit more verbose code yet, but we have to see that in the future, how that turns out and if this will be really a disadvantage. In all, I'm very happy with this session so far, and because we had such a trembling speed here, I would say let's finish off that stream for now. Be ready for the next time tomorrow morning, where we discuss how we go further with our repository structure, and then maybe implement also a little bit more logic so that we finally can go into our client to make that a little bit more convenient to work with. All right, if you have any questions, please drop them down in the comments below on YouTube or join our kick.com stream. That would be fantastic because here I'm streaming more and more frequently. And if you have any further questions, please let me know. Thanks for watching. Until the next time. Bye.